turn around and just say, what do you know about Spain? If something, if nothing, doesn't matter. That's what we are here for, right? So just share among yourselves. What do you know about Spain? Okay, all right. We can share in a second. You want to share with your, yes, yes. Yeah. Just traveling, yes, yes, from Spain, yeah. Okay. Okay. That was fast. I also want to acknowledge that there are some of you are in Zoom, so I don't want to spend a lot of time for them not to have to do anything. So we have a chat question. Are you on that? Okay. Let's hold that. We can talk about what you know about Spain later. I just wanted to introduce you on the topic. Let's see. Okay, this is very general data, but it's important to understand really Spain. Sorry, some of them are small. This is Spain, Southern European country, right? We are neighbors with Portugal and France, and then we have Italy there. And with these countries, we share a lot of history. Then these two graphics represent what we are really good at, okay? And who do we sell our products to? So Spain used to have, in the moment we are talking about Spain 20th century, two strong things that kept our economy going. One was the agriculture. If you have been in Spain, and I know many of you have been, you can see here, we have all sea, but Portugal and a little bit of Spain there, okay? We have the sun is there 360 days. It's not Michigan, it's Spain, right? And it's really warm and it's nice. Very good to just grow things in the agriculture. So we are, I don't know if you have tried the Spanish olives. I don't like them. So people think I'm a weird alien coming from Spain. For some reason, I don't like the Spanish olives, but we produce a lot of that, 21%. Oranges, we are really well known for our oranges and our lemons, 16%. Cereal, and obviously a little bit of Rioja wine too. If you are wine drinkers, you probably have some wine from Spain, Rioja, Ribera, and others here. Something interesting, this has nothing to do with Franco, but you should know this. Our olives, okay? Italy, you see here, Italy is this is the countries we sell to. So we sell a lot to Italy, 6.5%. It's all our olives. And then they made the olive oil, and then they sell it to the United States and other countries. But if you read, when you go to Meijer or your stores next time, read the label, and it says, this olive oil may contain olives from Spain, Turkey, and other places. So this is a problem we have with Italy, that they buy our products and then they sell it, and then they are, oh, it's from Italy. Actually, it's not. So we sell a lot to Germany. You can see there, most European countries, we have a big market with China. Who doesn't, right? US, United States too, and these are our main buyers of these products. But agriculture is really important to understand Spain, especially in the 20th century. Then, as you saw in the map, we have a lot of sea. Fishing is a big industry in Spain. We are the second country on using of fish. Eating of fish with the fish industry. The first one is Japan, and then Spain comes second. If you have gone to Spain, it's impossible not to eat fish there. And if you go, please eat it because it's amazing. And then the other big thing that had a lot to do with the Francoist term is tourism. So this ranking, this is a ranking by tourism revenue. And you can see United States is the first country, followed by Spain. So we need tourists. We need people to come to our country. That's what gives us a lot of revenue. What is interesting about this is like Spain is a 46 million people country. We are very small. United States is huge, right? So that was there during Franco, actually kick out. We became really popular during Franco regime, and still we are very popular, and we need that. So we need people to buy our culture, our fish, and come to our countries. Without those three things, Spain will not be very prosperous. So that's that. So to understand what we are going to talk about today, we need to understand a little bit of what was happening in Spain in the 20th century. So I hear that you guys were a big empire. Yes, we were, right? In the 15th century, we came to Latin America. We have all these empires. But then in the 1898, we lost the three colonies that we had. The last ones, Puerto Rico, Cuba, and Philippines, or is in Spanish, and the Philippines. And that brought a big identity crisis. So we used to be a big empire. We are not anymore. What is happening? Where we are going now? What do we do? So there was a lot of instability in the government. Every 2 years, we would have a new president. A lot of people could not vote. For example, women didn't have the right to vote. So it wasn't kind of fair. And it didn't even matter to vote because we have this alternancy between conservative and liberals, conservative and liberals. Then all that agriculture that I was telling you about, well, the machines came into Spain and the industrialization happened. And then a lot of people lost jobs. They were not happy. Hey, we were agriculture for the most of our history, right? What is going to happen with us now? So that created a lot of instability in Spain. Then in 1931, this is a very interesting map. We had elections as we were having, right? And something happens. People are not happy, as I said. And then you see the blue are people who were supporting the Republic. And the Republic were a conglomerate of leftist parties, communism, socialism, anarchism, those isms, right? And then the orange one was the people who still believe in monarchy. We had queens and kings since 1492. And people were really tired of these kings and queens, okay? It's not working. Let's see if we can change, maybe, right? So we did change. We became a republic, okay, from 1931 till 1939. So it was elected democratically. People went there and they vote. Women could vote. It was the first time that women could actually vote. The Democratic Republic was supported by left political groups, socialists, anarchists. I said that already. It was very key moment in modern Spanish history. Some people thought, oh my God, the kings are out. With this, the monarchy ended. They could not support each other, right? Women's situation was better. So we got some rights. Spanish people got some rights. And I have them here: right to vote for women, right to civil marriage and divorce, free and mandatory elementary education. Before 1931, everybody had to go. Not everybody, but 85% of people will go to Catholic schools. Everybody has to be married by the Catholic Church. Nobody could be married and divorced. So with the Republic came a lot of opening tendencies. However, the Republic inherited these things that were happening in Spain. So people were like, yeah, now we are a republic. We are changing. There is hope. Things are going to happen. We are going to be more liberal, more freedom, more open, more pro-Europe. But this was going on in the roots of Spain. We have a tense social environment, delayed modernization, debt crisis. We had a strong oligarchy, right? And then we have educational delay. So kind of like the Republic was the hope, and the Republic was good for a little bit, and new ideas came. However, Franco and his allies, right, thought, no, we are not going to go that way. Spain has to go back to who we were before. So you see the identity crisis. We lose all our empires. We are kind of like in the 20th century. What do we do? We are also seeing Europe and how Northern European countries are like really advanced in a lot of things, and we are still kind of like in the back. So Franco came, and then the Spanish Civil War started. So this is where the presentation is kind of like taken from. But do you have any general idea of the Spanish Civil War? If you know anything, a little tiny bit about this, you can raise your hand and share with us. Yes. Hemingway. Okay. What did Hemingway do?
He wrote some books about it, but I can't go any
Yes, he was there. Hemingway was there. See, we had a lot of international people. It was called Brigadas Internacionales. And there was a group of people from around the world who came to support. Do you think Hemingway support Franco or the Republic? The Republics, right? We're Republicans, right? Nothing to do with the Republicans in the United States. It's kind of like, let's call them Los Republicanos, okay? So he supported Los Republicanos and he wrote very famous books. He loved Spain. He wrote another one about the running of the bulls and all that. So yeah, Hemingway was there. I saw another hint. More, yes, kid. Guernica, yes, okay. So, you know, I don't know if this is a secret, but Franco, Mussolini, and Hitler were all together, right? So the German people were practicing for what was coming after 1939, then the Second World starts in 1941, 39 until 41. So the German people understood the Spanish Civil War as a let's try if this is actually gonna help work later. And Guernica was bombed, a city in northern Spain, by German planes. Yes.
Another issue, and it's the same issue we've got, the railroads of the countries of, this is 19, I'm not sure about this today, but it is true with the first countries. But the railroad over here is 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. The railroads of Russia, Ukraine, and Spain, at least in 1940, were 5 foot wide. I'm not sure whether Spain has moved theirs or not.
Okay.
But when you went from Paris to Barcelona, you had to change trains at the border, or they had to do what they call the carriage lift. So they lifted the whole car up.
Yeah.
With new wheels underneath.
Yes, yes.
I don't know.
And you know what is probably, I'm not gonna talk much about the Spanish Civil War. There is one thing I want you to understand, that Franco was supported by Hitler and Mussolini. And I'm sure with that, you can get an idea of who Franco was, right? And then it was the people who supported the republic that we had before the Spanish Civil War, who said, no, hey, this was elected democratically. We want to change Spain. We want a new Spain. So here comes the fight. I'm not going to play the video, but I think these maps are interesting in the sense that you can see at the beginning. So Franco is the purple, the rest, the Republicanos are the orange. So you see 1936, when the war starts, not much support, northern Spain. Then we go a year after, 1937. Okay, Franco is getting more support, is getting more territory, right? Including Morocco in Northern Africa. 1938, all right, okay, we see the map. Madrid and Barcelona were two biggest cities, were almost the last ones to surrender to Franco. So they were a symbol of hope and new beginnings in a new Spain. Finally, Franco took them too, but it took him a long time. And then this is 1939. Obviously, this area always become Republicana, never changed after the Spanish Civil War. People who stay there and wanted to clearly and openly be Republicano, then they have three choices: go to the exile, shut up and don't tell anybody who you support to, or going to jail. And a lot of very brave people, and that was my presentation before, decided to go to jail. So that is Franco. Franco was really well supported. He was a dictator, but people love it. My grandparents, in my mother's side, love Franco, okay? And then I will tell you why. I even think my parents probably, we don't talk about this much, but I've never heard bad words out of their mouth against Franco. Because when we have a dictator, there is some kind of order. Things are organized. If you are Catholic, he was supported big time by the church. So my grandparents were extremely Catholic. Then you actually, your preachers, your priests are telling you every Sunday that we are Franco. We are the people of Franco. So obviously everybody who comes to church are the people of Franco, right? So I'm not here to say Franco was a horrible person. I am so removed from that, and I have a study on my PhD to understand that Franco wasn't that good after all. So the reason why I did my PhD was because of my grandma. And I was super close to her, and I never understood how she would support a person that I understand wasn't that good because I saw what he did. So because I studied, but I didn't live it. But obviously my grandma went for walks on the streets and felt really safe because the police was all around. She had two daughters, my mom and my aunt. My mom and my aunt could not, they were dating who are their husbands today. They could not go outside and holding hands on the middle of the street unless a third person was with them. They could not go to the movies as couples if you were not married. So I kind of understand where she was coming from. But yes, so these are his allies, you know who they are. This is actually the only picture that we have with Franco and Hitler together. They met for like 9 hours. It's not like they were calling each other every day either, but Hitler knew he had the support of Franco. And here we have Mussolini from Italy. I know you all know about fascism. These are, so I will never say Franco was a fascist as Hitler was, for example, but these are the things he took from his regime and kind of like implement in Spain in the dictator. So they are obviously political and social totalitarian movements, totally against socialism and communism. That's the devil there, right? So against diversity and democracy, Spain was really rich, and it is still today very rich on terms of dialects. We have 40 million people, but we have 4 official languages: Catalonian, Basque, Valenciano. So in Gallego, I don't know how to say Gallego, from Galicia. He ended all that during Franco regime. No other language but Spanish. And if the police was hearing you speaking any other language, you better watch out, okay? So that was not, they went from economic fines to prison if you did it all the time and you were in the registry. Freedom of speech, obviously against that, passion of the country, and a very strict police system. So those are the characteristics that came to Spain. Saying that Franco was is a little bit dangerous from my point of view, is too risky because, so this was the dictatorship time, 40 years of Franco. However, not all the time were really, really strong. And this is what I'm telling you about him and Hitler. It was a very interesting relationship. So the Spanish Civil War ends 1939. From 1939 to 1945, Spain closed the borders. Nobody come here. We are self-sufficient. We can produce our own products. We are not gonna import anything from anybody. And Spain was also destroyed, like physically, the cities, a lot of cities were. So the same will happen after every single civil war. There was a little bit of rebuilding and very closed. Obviously, Franco only allowed his people to be in the political system, no more parties, no more anything. And as I said before, if you don't support Franco, you have 3 options. I put 2 is 3, jail, exile, or being extremely quiet about your tendencies. Then the Second World War ends, right, around here. And during that time, Franco is like, ooh, now I don't want anything to do with that Hitler movement there. So I'm just going to start walking away, because he was understanding we need support, international support. We are not going to be able to do this by ourselves. We have to rebuild the country. We have been closed for so long. So until that time, every time that he came to a room, people would have to go with their hands up as a salute, right? He stopped that. He stopped a lot of things that he copied from other regimes. That's an anecdote. And then they start opening, and who came to Spain to help us? Well, our country here, United States, in 1953, we start having a lot of economical agreements, because United States gave us a lot of money, credit. And what do we give United States? You will probably know, because I think that's why you came. What is still in Spain that belongs to the United States? Roda. And what is that? Could you explain?
Naval base.
Yes, naval bases. So we let United States to come, because Spain is really well situated in the map. If you want to go, right, we have access to the sea, fly, Europe is up there. So we gave United States 2 naval bases and they are still going at this point. And the Vatican, of course, the Vatican wanted to come because we were like this with the church, and we were fighting communism. Oh, that was the idea. So United States was also very interesting on, whoa, Spain is fighting we consider the bad guys, right? So then, okay, Franco got it. Let's start opening. Ooh, and this happens. And this was really important for us, Spain, to open people's minds. Because at this point, we were so close, it was just Spain. But little by little, you start opening. And the people from Northern Europe is like, whoa, this is Spain is cheap, really cheap to get there. They have sun and they have beach and they have the sea. So this graphic is interesting. In 1959, 4.2 million people visited Spain internationally, tourists, okay? In 1973, okay, 10 more years, 34.6 million people came to Spain as tourists. But this is how much people live in Spain. So we had the people living in Spain equal the people that visited Spain. So that was a boom, boom, boom. And here you have some pictures. This says April 1966 in Britain was particularly cold and wet. And Benidorm, which is in the coast in the east, proved a popular Spanish destination for sun seekers. I don't know where people were putting the sun umbrellas. I can only see one more little space there. So the next one in the picture, I have no clue. Benidorm is still like that. That city has not changed. And Spaniards don't want to go there in the summer because that is like the British people coming down. This picture, I put it here because, okay, we are still in Franco, the dictatorship, okay, 1939 to 1975. So if you were wearing a two-piece bathing suit, you were not from Spain. They were the international women who came because Franco did not let the women in Spain wearing two pieces. You just have to wear a whole piece or you will be banned from, if you were a woman from Spain, but the international women could do it. So this gives you an idea of how many new ideas and the Spanish women went to the beach and saw that. And I'm like, why we cannot do this if they are doing it? So little by little, this took years, we start opening to, we don't go, but they come and we see. And I think I added some curious facts that I think you will probably find interesting of our dictator time. And some of these also happen here. Some of these part of the years that I happen. Women can only work as nurses or teachers. Very censorship with books and movies, typical of any dictatorship. Even Dracula was forbidden, like movies that you don't even know why that was forbidden. Couples can only spend the night at a hotel if married, and if you brought your document. You forget your document, forget about a room in this hotel. I already talked about that. Only language was Spanish. Women could only dress in one piece. I already talked about that. To church, the women had to go covered with hat and gloves, but that still happens in some churches. I've seen it here in Grand Rapids where I live, in some churches too. So, and then that was the previous to the last is the one that makes me really mad. If a married woman wanted to travel, he needed permission from her husband, like a written permission that she could travel. This is international, not if he had relatives or wanted to go out. And then women could not have their own bank accounts. Little by little, all these rules disappear, obviously. But we were dealing with that, and women were fine because I've talked to my grandma many times, and that was how we lived. And she had no problem. Every time that I went to visit my grandparents, and I love my grandma, and I really like my grandpa, but they love secretly. Don't tell her. She's gone. Don't tell him. The love, it was for her, okay? We were like this. And we were neighbors too. So it was every single day I would see them. But I could not kiss her before I kissed him. So I will get home. I will get to their home and my grandma would say, did you kiss abuelo? And I'm like, not yet. Well, go to find abuelo, give him a kiss, and then you come to kiss me. Okay. And then another thing I always said, my abuelo, in Spain, we don't eat fruit like we do here, just wash it and eat it. We have to take the whole thing out. For some reason, we peel and then we eat it. I have never seen my grandpa peeling his own apple or pear. My grandma would have to do it and they would serve it to him and then he will eat the pear or the apple. So those kind of things were like, whoa, we have really radically changed in Spain because women, I promise you, they are not doing those things today, but this just happened. I was born in 1983 and I've seen that. So this was happening in the 90s probably. So not too long ago. These are some publicity that the dictatorship created for women to give them a clue of how to live their lives. It's in Spanish, obviously, but it says, be beautiful. Just have a rest 5 minutes before he arrives. Remember, women didn't work, right? So he can find you fresh and bright, okay? If you need it, just do your makeup again, okay? Do your hair in a specific way. And just put your best dress that you have for when he comes home, he will remember he has had a really hard day and he has only been with colleagues from work. Maybe, maybe not. So, but those were the messages and they were totally fine. No, not everybody was totally fine for that, but well, let's say the women who supported Franco was like, okay, this is us, no problem here. This is very interesting. I'm not gonna read all of them, but this was the advices they will give women if they wanted to be 100% feminine. So here it says, you cannot read, but it says, if you want to be 100% feminine, you have to. The first one is very funny because not every woman was like that. You need to have big hips, okay? And you need to have, here it says how your chin should be, right? And here it says, please, really, I hope you really like to be at home and cook and clean and all that. Here said, please be obedient, right? Here said, if you have to choose between feelings and reasoning, go to your feelings, not your reasoning. Obviously, that's easy to. Here it says, I hope you really want to become a mother, because if you are not a mother, I don't know what you are going to be, right? So, and here it says, please be passive. If you want to be between active and passive, just choose being a passive person. So that tells you what was happening during the dictatorship. Now you would think everybody did that, everybody agreed with Franco, obviously not. So we had an anti-Frankism movement starting in the 50s. It's really well known that before the 50s, not much happened, okay? We were worried about eating, to be honest. And then when Spain started being a little bit more open and economical situation gets better. This is a picture from Barcelona. Everything was clandestine. These are little newspapers that they will write and they will hide and they will give it to people who supported the Republicanos, right? And for example, in some of these one says, hey, the tickets to go in the train are too expensive. Let's just not use the train today. So the government will know that we are kind of like on a strike. So that happened. For women, it was really, really hard to have any kind of protest during Franco. That is a picture right after Franco died. So they were ready. They were ready to explode, especially the new generations. But it did not really actually happen until he was gone. And Franco, this is a picture, maybe it's too visual, I'm sorry about that, but this is a picture of Franco at the hospital dying. He has an agony of 39 days. So for 39 days, people in Spain thought that was the day that Franco was dying and he will not die. We have jokes about Franco not dying ever, okay? But he died finally on November 20th, 1975. But everybody in Spain know how long it took for him to die. And some people were really wanting for him to die, but some people were not okay with Franco dying. So it was, I don't know if it was 50-50, but I hope you understand that a lot of people in Spain had Franco support. This was his funeral. He was exposed on the chapel for 3 days because he said, everybody who wants to see me dead should have the moment to do it. So 3 days, this was the very, very well attended, as you can imagine. He wanted to be very as like this military, very important person. So he had everything under control. This was his cortege. November 20th, you see all the military and his people there. And this is very controversial because he said, okay, I don't want to be buried in just a regular cemetery. I'm going to build my own cemetery, and I'm going to bring everybody who has died in the Spanish Civil War on my band, on my people. So he created himself this kind of like palace, is a memorial, but this was built with the people who went to Yale that were in the Republicanos. So all these men who fought against Franco were taken from the Yales from prison and built Franco's cemetery. I mean, kind of like not fun. You can see this is 20 miles from Madrid. It's in a very remote place. I went to a Catholic school and we pilgrimage to this place. I have no clue where we were going. El Valle de los Caídos. Okay, let's go. Who is here? Franco, who is there? My nuns, and I can tell you, if I have time, I will tell you how I understood Franco when I was a kid living in Spain. Never told me Franco wasn't that good, okay? Because they are nuns, they are Catholic nuns. So very interesting. I remember going to this place and now I'm like, oh, whoa, we went here. Wow, okay. So that's where he was buried. But at the end, in the last minutes, I will tell you, because these are hot news in Spain right now, what has happened to this place. Okay, so that's it. Franco is gone. What do you think it happened in Spain after he was gone? How do you think people took it? Good, bad? Was this like, oh, yes, he's gone, let's be crazy now, or not so much? Any idea?
All of the above.
All of the above?
Confusion.
Confusion. Monarchy return, that's true. He said, what do we do now? His party is a mess. Like they cannot be in the same line. Obviously, what he wanted in the 39 is impossible in the 75. We have evolved too much. So his party actually didn't make it after he died. And he thought, okay, the most good way of bringing the monarchy. So monarchy comes back. But the social cultural changes were big, okay? So people, it seems like people were like, yes, I'm talking about the young generations, like, just please die because we have to explore. And there was an explosion of freedom and new topics and the wave culture and all the, I'm gonna tell you how people, if Franco was seeing this, oh my goodness, and this happened years after. So you can see up in that picture, right? The women almost really in her underwear. A lot of people went out at night. We are famous because we party a lot, and it is actually true. But it started in Spain. Restaurants and bars and are open until 4, 5, 6. We go out as young people until 5 a.m., 6 a.m. No problem. Discos are open. That's so we do. But it wasn't before Franco. It was all this. It was after Franco. You can see here the new fashion, media, books, movies start dealing with all these topics like big. I mean, almost every single. I hope I cannot show one movie made in Spain, because I can guarantee you there is a sexist scene or naked people or homosexuality is a big topic too. So I have to be very careful what I show and what I don't show with our students. So that was that. And then in this new wage in the 80s, and not all the music was like this, but this is the music when we sell music from the 80s is this music. They all talk about, I'm free, don't tell me what I have to do. I've been partying the whole night. So you can see, I'm gonna show you this was the most famous group, Alaska y los Pegamoides. I have no clue what Pegamoides means. This was the way they used to dress. And I have a little bit of that song there. So you can see how radical the change was. Look how she's dressing, how like the makeup, the hair. And this is probably one of the most famous Spanish songs. Everybody knows this song. She's saying, I don't care if I'm different, I don't belong to you, I don't have an owner. Okay, this is now the song that homosexuality has taken in Spain, and they are kind of like their song. Like when they have parades or anything, that song has been taken because it kind of says, you know, I am who I am. I hope you like it, and if you don't like it, but for you, this one is about this woman who has been drinking the whole night. It's Monday and she cannot go to work, and she doesn't care because she is just, oh no, I cannot wake up. Says the weekend was horrible. I could not sleep any night, and I could not sleep because I was drinking and smoking and laughing so hard. This song is from '83. So I think you get the idea of, I don't know what happened here. Oh, I have to go to the PowerPoint. Sorry. I think you get the idea of the radical new beginnings from especially the younger generation in Spain there. So that is more or less the social change. Women were really advanced. Obviously, they start going to the universities in big. My mom was part of that. But politically was also here. So the political changes were also really interesting. Franco said, okay, I cannot have my party continuing. My party is actually not doing that good. Let's bring back the monarchy. I believe in them. But that was his first speech as the person who was in charge of Spain. And then a year after, they have elections because we have the king and then we have the president too. But he says, you can read that today, a new stage has begun, a free and modern society. That was important. Participation of everyone, all the parties are welcome back in decision making, information media, so no more censorship. Various educational levels come back to not only church related schools, but public schools, the control of national wealth. So you can see his speech was, hey, don't worry about it. Franco choose me, I'm not gonna continue with that dictatorship. And this was the biggest mistake we did after Franco died, and we are suffering the consequences. And with this, I'm going to finish today. The left and the right, after 40 years of dictatorship, came together and said, okay, let's make an agreement. We're just gonna forget about what happened. All those 40 years of dictatorship, the 3 years of Spanish Civil War, let's put it to sleep and we just restart from zero, okay? So that's more or less the definition, is the political decision by both parties of Spain to avoid confronting directly the legacy of Franquism and the death of Francisco Franco in 1975. These are two books that are written in English among many of what happened in Spain. Nobody, as Kit said, nobody from Franco's area or the Spanish Civil War has been brought in front of a court to just defend themselves or being put really into justice, because they were killing just because people were not on their side. They were killing because people were not Catholic. They were killing because many different things, to women and to men. So nobody has brought in front of the justice system, and that is a ghost that is still following us in Spain. Because I have grandparents who were part of the Spanish Civil War that were in Franco's, but I have friends whose grandparents were killed because they were not Franco supporters, just because of that. So I'm not gonna ask you this because I'm coming to an end and I wanna have a question, but the dangers of having this politically agreement are being suffered today. So when the left comes into government I'm talking about the 21st century, they said all Franco statues, we still have Franco, that's one of them, have to be removed. So in 2004, the lefty party was there, they removed all Franco's and his followers' statues from there. We have a huge organization now, it's called La Memoria Histórica, the historic memory is like an association that is going city from city where we know some people were buried in like in underneath, right? They will put a lot of bodies there and then they will cover it. They are uncovering it, try to write DNA, trying to see who they belong to, calling the family, hey, we have the bones of your great grandfather, okay, come to pick it up. And this association is doing, they do tours now. So people are aware of these things happened during the Spanish Civil War. And we are trying to give the bones of who it was your people in your family, because you never had a chance to have a burial for them. This is huge. This happened months ago. So remember El Valle de los Caídos, that cemetery that he created for himself and his people? People say, hey, we have to stop that. Franco is there. Franco doesn't represent us anymore. So why are we paying with our taxes? Because that was a church too, that is costing Spanish people a lot of money. Where are we paying, maintaining this guy there when Franco wasn't that good? So this was in 2021. His family, these are his family, the priest from that church and all that, just took Franco out of where he was, and they took him to a cemetery, and now he's resting by his wife, but in a very, just in a regular cemetery. And I have closed El Valle de los Caídos, and now they want to make a museum of the Spanish Civil War, so everybody has access to that. However, this picture happened at the same time that they were taking Franco out. You can see some people are still thinking about Franco and thinking that Franco, after all, wasn't a bad guy, and they still support who Franco was. So what happened during the dictatorship is still alive, very much alive in Spain. It's still part of the Congress, the policies we make, the laws we make, and people are still suffering in a sense, especially people who were defeated by Franco, what happened during 40 years. And we, as the grandchildren of the Spanish Civil War, so removed from what happened, but so still in touch with our families, most of us are fighting for some justice. And for my friends who lost their grandparents and they don't know where it is, to at least have a little something that you can bury in a cemetery, and knowing you can go there and pray or whatever you want to do, So, so we found it really unfair what happened. And we just want justice. So, and that was part of the reason why I did my PhD about women who went to jail in that circumstances. So that's, in a nutshell. I could talk much more about this, but that's what happened, and that's Spain today. Maybe next year I come back to talk about the 21st century and these much more into a profound, but for today, that's it. Yes.
My first question is, what is the status of the Catholic Church today? It's been 47 years since Franco's death.
Yes.
Do most people bother going to church in Spain now or not?
Goodness. So Spain is still 97. If you see the statistics, we say we are still 97% Catholic, but you go to the churches and it's a really sad reality, because my mom, who is right now 67 years old, is probably the youngest generation there. So people in Spain, the revolution was so big after Franco, and we are so aware that the church and Franco were, and is still kind of close to us, that no, people are not. Spain is still Catholic. Not a lot of people practice the religion. Definitely not like we do here. I'm Catholic. I go in Grand Rapids and the church is like packed. Nothing like that. No. There is a studies who are studying what is going to happen with the church in Spain. The seminaries are almost dry now. We get some immigration from Northern Africa, Latin America, of priests and nuns. Clearly, they are the ones who are keeping our convents and seminaries that we have so many because of Franco open. So they are thinking 50 to 100 years, we are going to go back to the first Christians right after Jesus died, that they will meet in a room like this. They practice their religions, but churches are going to start closing, and we are just going to have a much more communal, smaller. That's the prediction. We will see what happens.
A question regarding during World War II.
Yeah.
Did Spain's military get involved in any military involvement, either with the
Yep.
with the fascists or
Yep.
allies?
Very good question. We couldn't, because we were, as I said, we were destroyed. We didn't have the capacity to help. We became neutral, even knowing that we were not neutral. I think what Spain did for the Second World War was to be a place where they could experiment for later, using their bombs and and it happened to Italy, but especially happened with Germany. We serve as as the lab, or let's try these things. And then, but then when they were, we didn't have any capacity. We were we think 1 million people, 1 million men died during the Spanish Civil War. So we couldn't help in any capacity. Yeah.
I wanted to relate my experience here. I wanted to relate my experience. I was studying at the University of Madrid in 1967.
Mhm.
With our classes were all American students, but we had very eminent professors. And our history professor, it was getting toward the end of the semester, and he was dragging out the beginning of the 20th century.
Yes.
And finally, someone asked, well, when are we going to talk about the Civil War? Aren't we ready to talk about that? And he said, no, we do not discuss it.
Yes. Yes.
It was.
And that was 67.
Mhm.
I graduated from my school in 2001 or 2. I was senior there. And I can promise you, not more than 2 days that I can remember. And I did a lot of history courses. We talk about Franco, because the school I went, the nuns will act like if nothing happened. So 67, 2000, I mean, look how many years are apart. And no, it is true that when we study history, we start from prehistory. In the story, the Spanish history is so long, it's centuries and centuries of history, but we did not touch on that topic either. So we still don't talk about that. And then because of the forgetting pact happened, I think that was horrible for that. Yeah.
So I have a question from Zoom, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, so I apologize in advance. Aren't the Basques trying to separate from Spain? What is that all about?
All right. So during Franco said, hey, I'm sorry if you are that kind of Basque or Catalonians. Those are the very big two parts of Spain that won the independence. During Franco, they could not do anything out loud. Everything they did, this map will show where they are. So the Bascos are up here in top, with Vizcaya, right? Smaller. Catalonia is all here. Barcelona is there. So during Franco, they could not even speak their own language. Has to be at home. So the Basque country has a lot of Catholics. That was very interesting. So during the Spanish Civil War and the dictatorship, it was much more clandestine. And at this point, they are very quiet. Catalonians are really loud, and they are the ones who want independence so bad, all these. They do what they can do. They do little things to poke the government all the time. Now they have said, obviously, if you want to be a teacher or a nurse or a doctor in Catalonia, you have to speak perfect Catalonian. The students, this goes to Hope College. It's affecting us and our students. I don't sign letters of recommendation to students who want to go to Barcelona to study. I said, I'm sorry, you don't have my support, because they are not going to speak Spanish to you, because they would much rather prefer to speak English than to speak Spanish, just to poke on us and saying we are different. So, and one of them is still going. She said, I'm still going. I'm like, okay, just go. It's only going during the summer. It worries me when they go the whole semester. Barcelona's amazing. I've been there. Architectonical is such a very big city. Is not a representation of Spain, because they have been fighting for independence since the very beginning. And then when Franco died, they start all these very loud traditions that were really Catalonian and define themselves identity. So I think the Basques are quiet. And if they want it, they have run statistics. There is not even half of the population in the Basque country who want to be independent, but the Catalonians are, as I said, much louder about this. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I cannot understand Spain without them. I don't know how they can understand themselves without Spain. So, and it will be really bad for them and their business. It's kind of like the Brexit, which could compare to the situation.
I'm Suzanne. I have a question about your education.
Yep.
And that, what was the mood of the Spanish with the loss of their properties in the New World? How did they teach you things about that?
That we see it because there was a boom of literature and history. I mean, literature and art. We had like a generation of writers who just wrote about that all the time, and it was so predominant that we study that through the literature that people wrote. We don't talk about. It wasn't very big, but that was a much stronger curriculum topic than the Franco that was eliminated from our. We don't talk about Franco like we don't talk about Bruno now. So you don't get the joke about Bruno. Have you seen Encanto? You have not watched Encanto? No, you don't have. Okay, Encanto is a Disney. You watch Encanto? You know the joke about we don't talk about Bruno. Okay, Encanto is really good. It's a Colombian, the last Disney movie from Colombia, and is really good. So yes,
Really good song.
and that's a really good song. We don't talk about Bruno, but now all the kids are saying we don't talk about Bruno. Yes, John.
Okay, 2 years ago, my grandson had a semester in Spain
Yeah.
and just loved it.
Yeah.
The owners of the apartment where he lived were two gay guys, and he loved them.
Yep.
And he, unfortunately, COVID hit,
Yep.
and he was sent back. He wanted to
Yep.
stay, but the program sent him back.
Yep.
And he finished up, but he loved it in Spain.
And you said they were gay people, the owners.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is another interesting thing. For obviously, homosexuality was totally restricted too. I don't know, you have to be very quiet about that. But then he dies, and then another explosion was that, right? You can openly tell who you are and how you associate it. And then in the 21st century, after the Netherlands, Spain was the second country that openly was okay with homosexuality, marriage, adoptions, anything, you openly do it. And yeah, we are very upfront now with all those social issues. I don't think they're issues, but social aspects. So yes, a lot of freedom in that sense, and very quick we recuperate.
So we have a question from
Yeah.
Zoom, and I want to be a little bit sensitive of your time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
Yeah.
we're still good for that, but so have you read Isabel Allende's book, The Long Pedal of the Sea? Is it accurate in terms of the Civil War?
The Long Pedal of the Sea from Isabel Allende. I have not read that book. No, thank you. I don't know if Long Pedal of the Sea. I don't know how that will translate in Spanish.
It is in Spanish.
It is in Spanish?
Yeah.
I'm just seeing the title, A Long Pedal of the Sea. No, thank you for the recommendation. Yes, I will add it to the summer. Today is our last day of classes. So yes.
I had never heard that phrase, a pact of forgetting, and that's kind of chilling when you think about this country, which is what we seem to be moving toward.
Yeah, forgetting. Yeah, it is. It was, I'm like, after so much fight and after the left has been quiet for so long, and they have their clandestine movements and meetings and all that for a little bit, especially in the late 50s, 60s, and 70s. I cannot believe, it's hard to believe that they all sat after they all went through and said, okay, let's do it. But people were very tired. The Spanish Civil War was awful. The dictatorship wasn't that good. And I think it was option B of how to really fast recuperate from what we have gone through. But unfortunately, they didn't think about the consequences for the different generations that we don't really understand. There is a little bit of identity crisis. For example, the Spanish flag. we don't use it because we we are still to this day associated with Franco, because Franco was such an exaltation of Spain, and Spain was the country of the war and chosen by God, all these ideas. So it's very weird to find flags, Spanish flags, outside in any Spanish home, because there is still this association to Franco and the flag, and we don't want to do that. If you go to Madrid, there is one big flag in the middle of a square, but we don't use flags because of that. So, but it's because we haven't had a clear end, and let's start again. We have never really end.
How is it that the Catholic Church and Franco became so close, almost identified together, from what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? How did they get to be
I
so
think it was
close?
a mutual agreement of I support you, you support me. Franco was he was really well educated on a military education and a Catholic education. So I think for Franco, it is who he was, a really strong devotee. He will go to church every single day, and he will take communion every single day. But then he will go to his office and he would sign the death of so many people who are innocent. So that tells you who Franco was. But he was really thought, like back in the 15th century, that he was chosen by God. So that was on him. God has chosen me to, through Spain, fight against the communism. So the church obviously loved that. However, the church in the 60s started disassociating too. And actually, when he died, the cardinal who went to his funeral, he said, "I'm not here to judge the history, and I'm not here to tell you if Franco was good or bad. It's interesting to read his homily. I'm just here to bury Franco." So with that, he said, okay, there is a little bit of, and then in the Basque Country, the priests were totally against that too. So there was some rebellion in the church happening. Yeah.
Changing the subject to something very close here, but it sounds like just your speech. Change the subject. Mayor Daley of Chicago went to communion every day.
Yeah.
And by 9 o'clock, he was getting all his bribes.
Yeah.
And he was getting people thrown out of town. So it's the same story, 1955 to 1975.
Yeah.
Gosh, same time frame, but a little
Yeah.
bit later on the start. So
And now I have a curiosity.
perfect parallel.
When we die and we go to heaven, will I find Franco there? Did God forgive him for that or not? I mean, that is that what happened at the end, right? So I don't know. I don't know what Franco is going to be once God called us to join him. It's interesting, like such a Catholic person will do that. So for my reasoning, it's like, wow. But for my grandma was the thing to do, and they deserve it. Like these people deserve it to die because they were communists, and my grandma thought the communism was evil. So all these ideas were there, and it's so hard to disassociate how people used to think in those days to their actions. That's the society in the 20th century. But Spain is very advanced these days. Like it just took off, and we are very liberal, freedom. Still, we have those things, those ghosts, but we are in a much better place. And now we have 4 parties instead of 2. So things are changing quickly. Yes. All right.
Thank you, Berta.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes.
Great class.
Thanks to
Great
you.
class. Good questions.
Good questions. That's what I'm telling you. I love coming here. Yes.
We will invite you back again.
Actually have
Thank you.
questions. Yes. Yeah.
Number- Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yes, thank you. And I'm amazed that you actually go from here to history to social, so to business. You hear about everything in Haas. That is, I saw what else is coming this week, and I'm like, whoa, they are the students I would love to have. They are interesting about everything. Yes. I will be back. I don't know. You tell me what you want to hear about, and we will make it happen.